actually doing stuff. Genuinely surprised by that. Wow, okay. G'day, I'm Paul. So the last time I drove the Mustang Mach-E, I was actually pretty disappointed by it. It was too firm. It didn't have the performance endurance that you'd expect the high-spec performance version of the Mustang to have. I don't know, it was just all kinds of wrong. So what Ford has now done is they've dropped the price, which was one of my complaints, and we're also going to be testing out the mid-spec here, which I reckon should be a better sweet spot to aim for if you don't need that explosive performance. This is called the Premium, one step up from the base model. This is priced at just under $80,000, but if that is too expensive, the entire range kicks off at just under 65. So today we're going to do a review of this. It's not going to be a super detailed one because we did a detailed review of the Mach-E GT, so this will be more a condensed version, but I'm going to focus on the differences here between this and that performance spec. If you do want to skip ahead to other parts of this video, you can use the time codes that are on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, you can scroll down and use the chapters below. Now let's talk about design. So optional colors, $700. A lot of people are offended by that. Not horses, but the Mustang badge, and that is because Ford has called this a Mustang. And look, I want to get through this review and better understand whether this is, I guess, the electric Mustang that Ford wants it to be. They have called it a Mustang, which means it needs to have the sportiness to it, and it needs to be able to do Mustang things. And I'm going to do a couple of tests later on that Mustangs are able to do that I want this to be able to do. And that will, I guess, in my mind, define whether this is indeed a Mustang or not and worthy of that badge. On the design front, look, I actually think this looks pretty good. The front really has that sort of muscular stance to it. You've got black highlight there in the center. This is all closed off because, you know, tradition with electric cars is to just have cooling down the bottom there and not have unnecessary openings up the top there. Full LED headlights, they look pretty nice there. You've got LED indicators as well. Around the side here, you've got a set of 19-inch alloy wheels. My complaint with the GT was that it was way too firm. This is riding on 55 profile tires, so I am hoping that means that this rides better than the GT did, because ultimately, even though it wears the Mustang name, it is a family car and it needs to be comfortable for families. You have this wheel arch cladding over here in piano black. You've got a 360 camera with indicator built into that wing mirror. Mach-E on the side there. You've got full glass roof, privacy glass, and then these wings on the side. So instead of having door handles, you just push a button and then you pull this open. Got number pad there as well to get access to the car without the key, which I think is a clever thing if you're surfing and doing other sort of sporty related things. You've got full LED taillights back here, similar design to the Mustang Coupe with those vertical straps just there. You've got a wiper here for the rear window, spoiler integrated into the boot there, shark fin aerial up the top, piano black down the bottom there as well, and then look, another Mustang badge to trigger people. Let me know what you reckon about the design in the comments section below. Do you think it looks good? Do you think it's still too expensive? I'm keen for your feedback. Let me know. Okay, so we are inside the Mach-E. Start off with the keys. So you've got unlock, lock, front, boot, and then on the back you've got the Mustang logo. The shape of the key is actually the same as my Raptor key as well, so it's like a universal Ford key. You've got push button start up the top there. Yeah, push button start. After years of owning a Tesla, I have always wondered why they bother with a push button start in an electric car, because why do I need to push it to then just drive it? Like it should just be on. So hopefully that's something they can get to a little bit later on. And even the concept of the key itself, they've gone to the effort of putting the number pads on the doors so you can get into the car with the key still inside it, but the number pad won't allow you to drive it, and neither will the Ford app. Whereas again with the Tesla, you can basically drive it with your phone or the key card, or with someone else's phone. Like it's just a much more intuitive system. So hopefully that is something Ford is working on. Now, in terms of the rest of this interior though, this is where I reckon they've knocked it out of the park. It actually looks and feels high-end and premium. When you're paying this kind of money, you really just want to feel like you're getting value for money. And to me, stuff like this sort of textured material up the top there, and then the softer touch surfaces as you work your way down, actually feels like a really nice place to be seated, and it kind of feels like an expensive car, which I think is a good thing. Now, let's talk about infotainment. So that screen is almost 16 inches in size. That is crazy. I remember when I was growing up and I used to go to LAN parties, I had a 17-inch CRT, and I thought I was someone. To think that I now have that in a car, and it's like that thick, and it doesn't weigh like 1,000,000 kilos, I think is really cool, unlike going to LAN parties. You can Google that if you don't know what it is. But basically, it is a fully featured infotainment system. You've got inbuilt satellite navigation with traffic. In addition to that, you have AM/FM radio plumbed through a 10-speaker B&O branded sound system. The sound system is great. That's one of the things that I think they've done really well here. A good sound system to me screams premium, and you can't have a premium price tag if you don't have a premium sound system. So they've done that. You've got wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You've even got like a sketch thing here. I'm not entirely sure I understand the purpose of this. Obviously to sketch things, but you'd probably use it a couple of times and then never touch it again, but it's got it there anyway. In addition to that, you've got the owner's manual built into here and also a charging screen as well. Down the bottom is where they've left your climate control. So no physical buttons. Basically everything is driven by the climate control screen. So no sort of swiping or anything like that. You're just going to click and then it brings up this center section, and it's good that whichever function you click on, you can then use this dial to then use that function, whether it's temperature, fan speed, or volume. It all sort of centers around that function just there, and then you have voice recognition as well if you do want to talk to the car instead. Head of the driver, another display. So this one's great, a little over 10 inches in size. This is the perfect alternative to a head-up display because it gives you all of the information you need. I mean, this is desperately missing from stuff like Teslas where you just don't have anything ahead of the driver. You've got this tiny little speedo off on the screen there. You've got to take your eyes off the road to look at, whereas everything is really neatly presented here ahead of the driver, which I absolutely love. So I'm really glad they've been able to fit all of that in. On the safety front, you've got autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection. You've got an auto-dimming rear vision mirror, blind spot monitor built into your wing mirrors. You have a lane keeping assistant and kind of semi-autonomous steering function as well. Radar cruise control, front and rear parking sensors, and a 360 camera. Show you what the camera looks like. There it is. Yeah, look, the quality is okay. Not sort of super amazing. You can see it's sort of a little bit sort of grainy there. I'll pop that into reverse. Yeah, look, it's okay. It just could be a little bit better. And if you are wanting to hook up your phone and charge things, you've got one wireless charging pad, a USB-A and a USB-C port, and a 12-volt outlet inside this center console as well. On the storage front, I mean, you can put stuff here, but you can see it from outside the car. So if you have any valuables, obviously you shouldn't be leaving valuables in the car, but there's just nowhere really in the center here to store them without them being seen. And it feels like a bit of a wasted opportunity up the top here as well, because you can't really do anything with this center armrest, but you do have a reasonably sized glove box there, plus a sunnies holder up the top as well. In terms of comfort, you have electric seat adjustment for the driver and front passenger, so you can go forwards and backwards. Your backrest can go forwards and backwards. You can't lift the front of the seat, which is a little bit disappointing. I would have liked to be able to do that. You can only lift the back, but you do have seat memory for the driver, 3 slots of that. Steering offers both tilt and reach adjustment. And on our reach test, all of this stuff is easy to reach while you're driving, which I think is good news. Now, second row, knee room is good. Toe room is good. Headroom is not too bad. So I was saying good because, yeah, it's sort of a tiny bit cramped, but it's not sort of the end of the world. Air vents down here, you've got 2 USB ports there, a USB-C and an A. ISOFIX points and a center armrest there as well. Now I'm going to point out as well that I'm actually going to be holding on to this car for like another 6 months. So I'm going to be putting my daughter in here with her baby seat. We're going to be using it as a daily family car to see what this is like. Now let's talk about cargo space. So back there, you've got a sloping roof line, which means it eats into your cargo space a little bit, but you do have underfloor storage. Ford has actually thought about this as a full electric platform instead of a retrofit to an internal combustion platform. So it means that you are afforded the benefits of this being an electric vehicle, and that means underfloor storage in the rear. You also have over 100 litres worth of storage under the bonnet as well. That's going to mean that you can put things like cables and other odds and ends there. I have found that extremely useful in other electric vehicles as well. When you are loading the car up to the hilt, it's good overflow space for stuff that doesn't actually fit inside the car. And then of course you can drop the second row as well if you need that little bit of extra space as well. It's a pretty versatile family vehicle. Now let's talk charging and battery and electric stuff. So this is the charge port. Don't love this location, and don't love this location typically in EVs because it's always difficult to reach. I'd prefer just to be at the back or at the front, but back is typically easier. So you've got both AC and DC charging. It's a 91 kilowatt hour battery. 600 kilometers or so of WLTP driving range. This can charge 3-phase 11 kilowatts on AC and up to 150 kilowatts on DC. Not really a super fast charging rate for DC, given this is a lithium-ion battery. Would have expected that to be faster because the average is about 85 kilowatts. So it isn't going to be the fastest car to charge, even on fast charging infrastructure. So that side of things is a little disappointing. Hopefully Ford can update that and get a bit more oomph out of this so you can charge it faster and be on the road before you know it. And are you in the market for a new electric car? Well, have I got a deal for you? Well, actually, I have a page full of them. All you need to do is go to Google, type in Help Me CarExpert, or use the QR code on the screen. It's going to take you to the CarExpert website. We're a big company. It's like over 60 full-time employees. Very impressive. We also have a page on the site with all of the deals going in Australia this month to help you figure out which car you need to pick. We can then even put you in touch with one of our friendly dealers who might even be able to get you a better deal as well. So go to Google, type in Help Me CarExpert, or whip your phone out, scan the QR code, and away you go. Okay, so we've hit the road in the Mach-E Premium. Now, first thing I've noticed, this is firm. And it's really fascinating because if you have a look at Tesla Model Y, for example, it's firm as well. And I've owned one of those now for 2 years. We've just sold it. It was just unbearably firm to the point where, you know, you're hitting bumps and stuff on what should be fairly smooth roads. And, you know, it's waking your child up because it is just so rough. And that was even on 19-inch wheels. That was the base wheel that you could actually get with that car. So I can understand why Ford's doing it, because you've got the Mustang badge there. You want it to have that sporty feel to it, but you would have hoped they would have had some ability to have adaptive damping or something like that, just to smooth it out a little bit. But anyway, what is powering this? So it is a single electric motor. It's interesting, basically the entry level is a single electric motor, but this is the long range version of the entry level, but it still retains a single electric motor. A lot of the time when they do a long range, they offer it with a dual motor setup, but here in the Mustang Mach-E, you can only get a dual motor setup on the top specification GT model. Now it produces a little over 200 kilowatts of power and shade over 400 Newton meters of torque. And that is about the limit you're going to get to when it comes to rear-wheel drive electric cars, because any more than that, and they are just going to try and fry the tires constantly, and any less than that, and they're going to feel a little too sluggish. So it is around where it needs to be. And that results in a 0 to 100 time of about 6 seconds, which we'll test out shortly. Now, what does all that feel like behind the wheel? Let's give this a punch. Yeah, it feels pretty good. 400 Newton meters of torque is nothing to sneeze at. And in a vehicle like this that weighs over 2 tons, yes, it is quite heavy, but actually feels pretty sort of sporty as it drives. And, you know, it's one of the offsets you have. A big battery like this in the long range means it does add a bit of weight, but you are getting the extra range that comes with the bigger battery. Let's talk about economy. So Ford claims a number that's around 17 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks. This car's fairly new. It's done 900 kilometers, and over its lifetime, it's sitting at 20 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks. So near enough to that figure, but still quite high. I'll be keen to see what this is like over time as I spend a bit more time with the vehicle away from the proving ground here. We've been doing silly things and to see where that number actually settles down to. The one feature I do like here is that it supports one pedal driving, and it's a pretty good system. The only sort of negative is that right at the end there, when it comes to a stop, it could be smoothed out a little bit, just stops a tiny bit too harshly. But I think that's something they can easily fix with a software update. Turning circle is also better here in the rear-wheel drive version than the all-wheel drive. Comes in at under 12 meters. And in terms of the exact weight, it actually comes in at just under 2,100 kilos curb weight. Now it's time for our sine waves. We do this at 130, maximum speed limit here in Australia. See what the body control's like. So that's excellent. So one of the trade-offs you get with it being a firmer ride is that you are actually getting very good body control. That should mean that this actually is pretty sporty to drive as well, so we'll find that out shortly. Okay, bumpy road time. We do this at 90 Ks an hour. It's a shocker of a road, and you can kind of hear in my voice here, aside from it being croaky, that it is sort of bouncing around a fair bit here. It is quite firm. This is our condensed sine wave that we do at 90. See, this feels really nice and settled because it is falling into each of those divots there. So it is on the firmer side, but yeah, it's not sort of overly crazy. You are still getting that performance benefit. Okay, so let's talk drive modes. So if you go into this menu, you've got Whisper active and untame, which is the fast mode. Let's pop it in untame and go for a little zip around the track here. Propulsion sounds are on so we can hear what it sounds like. We'll see whether this is sportier than the other vehicles in this segment. Okay, it's nice and flat through there. Good steering feel, nice sort of rear-wheel drive feel as well. Sort of not over the top, but you can definitely feel it's a rear-wheel drive vehicle. Picking up pace very nicely. Yeah, once this thing is up and moving, it is actually hoofing along very nicely. It's not sort of as face planting as the GT, but it actually sort of moves along great. Brake pedal feel isn't great. It's very sharp and grabby, and I remember we had the same thing in the GT. It's very effective, like it pulls up the car really nicely, but it does feel a little bit grabby. But I'm just loving how flat the body's sitting and how communicative everything is. This feels very sporty, and this is I guess where they're getting that Mustang thing from. You know, you've got a Mustang on the vehicle, you need it to feel and drive like a Mustang, and through the corners this definitely feels like that. So yeah, look, it's yeah, I'm kind of getting now why this feels the way that it does with that Mustang badge. It's not sort of all out performance, but it definitely is one of the sportiest electric SUVs in this segment. Okay, now this is a Mustang, right? So I want to see if it actually does Mustang things. So I want to do a donut, and I also want to take it over to our skid pan as well. It is still a little bit wet out here, so any car can really do a donut, but I thought it'll save the tyres a little bit, and the skid pan is drying up, so that's fairly dry. So I guess we'll just see how it goes, because most electric cars won't allow you to have any fun at all. So you'll switch off stability control entirely. It's only really BMWs and the new Ioniq 5N that allows you to actually do stuff. So this might not actually do anything, which means it isn't really a Mustang. So let's see what happens. We'll try, just start off with a donut here. Let's see if this works. Oh, it's actually doing stuff. Genuinely surprised by that. Wow, okay. And it's doing it pretty easily as well. Like it's not going too crazy with torque to the rear, but it is allowing us to just lean on the throttle, bring the back end around, and then just stay in the throttle as it goes. So it does the donut, albeit with no, big V8 sounds and all that sort of stuff, but it did a donut. It was a Mustang related thing. Now, this is the skid pan. It is sort of drying up in parts, so it will be a little bit tricky to do anything here, but we'll give it a shot anyway. So, tip that in, bit of throttle. Look, it's doing Mustang related stuff. I wasn't expecting that. Almost lost that, but yeah, look, I think that like I said, not V8, it's not supremely easy to do that stuff, but you're getting instant torque to the rear motor, and it's allowing it to do the stuff that I would categorize as being Mustang related stuff. So from that point of view, I think that they have thought about this as being a fun, sporty car, and if you were to buy a Mustang, you want to be able to do that stuff. You need to know that it does that stuff, and that is where I think this differs from other electric cars on the market that don't even allow you to do that. Like a Tesla, if you switch off stability control, unless it's a performance variant, you cannot do that. It just basically shuts all your fun down immediately. So, hat off to Ford for at least thinking about that component of the Mustang name in this electric car. Okay, time to do a bit of performance testing. We're going to go 0 to 100. We'll actually go all the way through to 120 so we can see what our 80 to 120 overtaking speed is like. It is worth pointing out our battery is down to 47% and it's quite cold today as well, so probably going to affect the performance, but call it out anyway so no one complains. Traction control is off. I'm just going to load up the brake with the throttle, and away we go. Nice and strong off the line there. Okay, there's 100. And 120. Alrighty, let that looks like. So 0 to 100, 7.23 seconds, 80 to 120, 4.55 seconds. So the 4.55 was pretty good. That sort of 0 to 100 times a bit sluggish, I reckon. Could just be because the battery is sort of under 50% charge and that it is cold outside, but I would have thought it'd just be a little snappier there over the 0 to 100 run. Okay, let's see what the brake and tyre package is like. Do a stop from 100 k's an hour. Okay, here we go. Okie dokie. So that was 100 to 0. Oh, nice. 2.81 seconds, 35.97 meters. I'm going to put some results up on the screen there, but that has got to be one of our best stopping distances from 100. Very, very, very impressive. If you do want to see how this car compares to others that we've tested before, there is a link in the description below. Now, how quick does it go in reverse? Let's find out. Here we go. Oh, nice. 51 kilometers an hour. So the Ford Mustang Mach-E Premium, what do we think? So I'll remind you that I'm going to be holding on to this car for a little while now. So I'm going to see what it's like to live with as a replacement for our Model Y. Keep you posted on that, and I'll do an update at the end, and I'll try to do some stuff sort of in between as well. But in the interim, what do we think? Well, look, I actually think this is a much better purchase than the top spec. I think the top spec aims to deliver performance, but doesn't really deliver performance in the way that some of its competitors do. And as a result of that, you kind of got all the compromises of a sports car with none of the benefits. Whereas this, you're kind of getting the compromises of the sports car with the firmer ride. But benefit is that it actually handles quite nicely, and because you're not expecting it to have, you know, face-pulling performance, it really delivers in that middle ground. So from that point of view, it's good. Lots of tech inside, plenty of room, and I think the range is also going to be exactly where you want it for an electric vehicle. The price is still pretty expensive though, so I think Ford still has some work to do on that. And I reckon if you were to walk into a Ford dealer, they would probably be doing discounts on these at the moment. So let me know what you reckon in the comments section below. Have you bought one of these? What has it actually been like to live with? I'm keen for your feedback, and are you looking at buying one? Let me know if there's anything you want me to also find out while I have the car and I'm testing it as well. So if you did enjoy this video, please make sure you like it and you share it with your mates. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon. But until next time, take it easy.